Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the WM32 Football Podcast. I hope you missed us. We apologize, for the short break, but we are back and ready to talk everything football. I'm here joined by Wes, and me and Wes today will be discussing about Jose Mourinho's dismissal, which came as a shock to everyone. It was announced on Monday that Jose Mourinho was sacked by Tottenham Hotspurs, and today myself and Wes we will be delving into the dismissal, what went wrong, what could he have done to change things, and just looking at the future of Tottenham Hotspur now that Mourinho is out of the club. So, Wes, good to have you here. How are you doing?
Yeah, all good now as well. It's been a whirlwind kind of 24 hours for the world of football. No, really, really good to be back. Obviously, we've had a bit of an extended break,
Yeah.
extended international break almost, if you like, due to other commitments, unfortunately. But no, really, really good to be back once again on the podcast, talking football and talking about Jose. So let's get cracking, shall we?
Let's get cracking. So, I guess my first question, because we've actually done, a Coach's Insight episode on Jose, and that was also during a time where Tottenham was struggling a bit in terms of form. And we delved into Jose Mourinho as a coach, his career, his tactics, everything. But I guess now we just kind of go straight into it. What's your reaction after everything? Like to the dismissal, everything.
Yeah, I think obviously that coaching insight one and that episode was more about Jose and his career, whereas this now today seems like we're going to just talk about his time at Tottenham. Um, the timing of this announcement, dismissal, if you like, is so strange, so strange. Like we have a cup final on Sunday against Manchester City, which most Spurs fans I think aren't holding out too much hope because even if City play their Champions League game against PSG on the Tuesday, you look at their B team and that could probably still compete for the Premier League. So yeah, we're a little bit I wouldn't say on edge, but I guess there's that sense of well, we're probably going to get beat anyway because of who we're playing. And actually, it's quite interesting because if there's anybody that you would really want in a one-off game, a cup final or whatever like that, you would argue you'd want Jose Mourinho there to get you over the line, which was essentially what he was brought in for. But yeah, the timing of it's really, really strange. I think, I look at perhaps this season and I think there's perhaps a couple of points where it made a bit more sense for him to leave or get sacked or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The first one was Chelsea at home. For any Spurs fan that watched that, or for anybody that watched that game, Tottenham were pathetic, absolutely pathetic. Like it was one of the worst performances. Forget the scoreline or anything like that. Just the performance itself was pathetic. Didn't lay a glove on Chelsea, and most Spurs fans know that is one of the big games in the season. It's a massive rivalry between the two clubs. Properly hate each other. Everybody knows like the Battle of the Bridge and things like that, and whatnot. But we just did not turn up at all on that day, and yeah, pathetic. Didn't lay a glove on Chelsea at all, and they had almost a Sunday morning stroll in the park kind of thing. So he could have gone then because of the state of the performance. Dinamo Zagreb in the Europa League away. That was another one. I did a live watch along on another channel that lasted 3 hours and 20 minutes, which was really which was a bit of a slog. But obviously we went to extra time. But to be 2-0 up, from the first leg, yes, Mourinho sent out a very strong team as well, but to then not get over the line with that was not good enough. I think the players massively let Mourinho down that night. And it was almost from then you could tell that the players weren't playing for him. So then that's one that a situation or a scenario where he could have gone then. United, I think that game's being highlighted a little bit because when Kane comes out, or there's rumours that Kane is looking to potentially move on in the summer, you've got to do what you can to try and keep him. We're going into that United game 1-0 up at half time. I think around the 70-minute mark, game's 1-1, a tight game, could literally go either way. And he brings on Musa Sissoko to try and win the game. and every Spurs fan was a bit confused because Moussa Sissoko is not going to win you a football game. So perhaps could have gone then, but then even on Friday against Everton, you know that Calvert-Lewin's not playing, yet you decide to play three centre halves. It's almost like, well, what are they defending against? There's no focal point for Everton. The focal point's not there. So, and ultimately that was the final straw. But yeah, the timing strange. Like, could he have gone maybe after the cup final?
Right.
You know, if he goes after the cup final, you know, if we win the cup final, perhaps he gets a bit more credit in the bank because he's delivered on what his objective was, which on the face of it, the outside looking in, was to deliver a trophy.
Yeah.
So if he does that, then although was it a case of if he does that, you know, Daniel Levy's got a difficult decision to make, because, you know, how can you sack a manager that's won you a trophy when you haven't won one for 13 years? You know, really, really difficult decision. But then if he lost the cup final, you'd go, right, well, he was brought in to get us over the line in these types of games and he hasn't done that. Then he could go, or even just wait till the end of the season. Again, you know, could have perhaps waited till the end of the season, and then, you know, we look at getting somebody else in. So timing of it's really, really strange. I know the whole announcement of this European Super League has happened as well, and whatnot, and I'm sure we will delve into that at some point.
Yeah.
When a few more details get released. So yeah, the timing of it is the strangest thing for me regarding Mourinho and his sacking.
And I think, like you said, he was brought in to deliver, and obviously the cup final this weekend, that was a potential opportunity to potentially, you know, prove his case that it was the right appointment, you know, because you got that would have been your first trophy since 2008, obviously.
Yeah, don't rub it in.
But this is actually the first time in Jose's managerial career that he's left without actually winning anything, which was a shock to me. Just because, like you said, he's a specialist, and I think I've read an article saying that there's a potential point, a perspective that people will look at him that, you know, he would become something that he didn't want to be, which was a specialist in failure, which he said obviously to my manager at the time, Arsene Wenger. What do you think, Jose? Is there anything you feel like he could have done differently, you know, during his time to avoid a sack? I know you mentioned a few key points, you know, for these certain games, Chelsea, Zagreb. Anything you feel like he could have done differently throughout his managerial career, maybe management of players, etc., tactics?
Well, the fact that Mourinho is not won a trophy, or the first club he's not won a trophy at is Tottenham, just defines the term of Spursy. By the way, you know, it was. I think there was that slight narrative going that, you know, the joke was flying around that Jose won't probably win a trophy with Spurs, and it's just typical Tottenham, you know, the whole Spursy thing. But I guess in answer to your question, I guess the easy answer is just, you know, win more football matches.
Yeah.
Essentially, that, you know, we're in a results driven business, and essentially he's not won or enough. I wouldn't say too many, because I think over his time since he's appointed, I think is it United, Liverpool and City, the only teams that have picked up more points than Tottenham. So yeah, the easy answer is, you know, win more football matches. I think there was some strange goings on, not especially, I wouldn't say from the start, because it looked like there was a difference in the Tottenham team in terms of how we were playing in the when he, you know, in that time period where he came in, certainly initially at the start, or in the start of his reign last season.
Yeah.
I think he addressed a certain area of the team that needed addressing in terms of that ball winning midfielder with Højbjerg. And I think Højbjerg has been brilliant on the whole. Maybe a couple of sticky performances here and there, but I think, like I say, on the whole, he's one of the first names down on the team sheet. But then I look at him like there's a few things that I'm like, the signing of Matt Doherty, and it's like, okay, yeah, we needed a right back. And yes, you know, he speaks in a documentary about him being aggressive, but it's like, you know, Matt Doherty's not really a signing that you go, whoa, as a fan, I'm not getting excited by that prospect of us signing Matt Doherty. And that's no disrespect to him, because it's not his fault, but it's just not a player that as a fan you go, oh, I'm so glad we've got him, because he was really, really good at his previous club. And it was a strange signing anyway, because he'd played certainly in the Premier League as a wing back, and then he was coming in to be a competition or first choice right back, completely different. So there's that. Obviously, the man management of players, I think, under Mourinho has ultimately let him down. I look at the treatment of Tongi and Ndombele in the first instance was strange, considering this was a player that was coveted by some of the top clubs in Europe, and he chose Tottenham. So you've got a gem on your hands, and all of a sudden it's like, I'm going this way, or and it's like, well, what does he have to do essentially to get in the team? And then I think there was some crunch talks between Ndombele, Mourinho, and whatnot in the summer, and coming into this season. And Ndombele's been brilliant, I think, for Tottenham. I know there's been a few fans that are saying he's been a bit hot and cold, certainly recently, but I still think he's been a bright spark in a struggling team. The way he attracts players to him and just rolls them either way, it's like, this is like the second coming of Moussa Dembele, who's like the greatest of all time. So, and then I look at, like, coming into this season, it's like, the likes of Winks and Dele and Bale to a certain degree.
Yeah.
It's like, and Joe Rodon as well, prime example, I think, like, what do these guys almost have to do to get in the team? Because surely anybody can see that defensively we're making too many errors. Well, we've got a centre half in Joe Rodon, who actually has probably been our best centre half this season when he has played. Just give him a run in the team. And I think loads of fans have cried out for Joe Rodon to play, and I know he's played in the last couple of games and whatnot, but he's been brilliant. How can we get Dele into the team? Well, it looks like at one point it was going to be very, very difficult to get him in the team in terms of the balance and the way we were playing. However, you've still got a talented footballer there. People still only forget that Dele Alli is just turned 25, yet people are writing him off. He's like comeback season almost. He's got that time to be able to come back almost, and we can see what we have seen from Dele previously. The treatment almost to Gareth Bale has been really surprising. Whether Mourinho wanted him or not, it's like you've got a global superstar. Use him. Use him. Pochettino at Tottenham never the downside with Mourinho as well is he was always getting compared to Poch as well. But you think, like, Pochettino at Tottenham never had a global superstar. Never had a global superstar. He almost turned players into global superstars. Jose had global superstars. He's got Kane in his prime. He's got Bale. He's got Son, who's now a global superstar. He's got Dele, who's a superstar. And it was almost like, why aren't we getting the best out of them? So I know the recruitment isn't solely down to Mourinho, but I do think there was some holes in that recruitment, and there was some things there that you're looking at and you're going, really? Like, bought in Vinicius. We were crying out for a backup striker. We get one in, and Vinicius is handy, by the way. He is a decent centre forward. And it's like, we've not used him like at all. I swear, we're the only club that could get a decent backup striker and like fob him off pretty much. Listen, do I think Vinicius is worth the £45 million that is, the clause that we've got to pay if we want to sign him? No, I don't think he's that good. However, he is a more than able deputy or second striker to have in a squad and in a team when you play a lot of games and when you're in 4 competitions. So, I think in terms of Mourinho, it was his man management and almost mismanagement of the squad at times that let him down.
No worries. And before we move on to, who Tottenham have announced to replace him, for the short term and stuff, I guess sum up his kind of best moments. So what for you, seeing him since he's come in, which might be difficult to, pick out a few best moments, but it could even be a player that you've enjoyed to see become even better under Mourinho. But I guess what's been kind of like the highs, and I guess what's been kind of been the really low lows. Like if you could pick out maybe one of each.
Probably the high Mourinho's reaction to Sterling not getting sent off, because that was box office, and I was actually in attendance in that game and was just saying from that, like, look, Jose's off. I think from a personal perspective, I was very fortunate to be at the North London derby when 2,000 fans were allowed in. And saw him walking out to do a press conference. Obviously, at the time, we were top of the league, so I was singing Jose Mourinho, he's top of the league, and he gave me a little one of those, so he was buzzing. But yeah, I think some of his press conferences have been really, really good. Like, I think Jose as a person has been enjoyable at times for the things that come with Mourinho in terms of those press conferences and things like that. I think they've been really, really enjoyable to watch because you always get a little nugget. And actually, I think for the first time, Tottenham had a manager that really stood up for them and wasn't willing to almost roll over and have a bite back at the media. And I don't think we've had that before. But yeah, to say that the highlights were probably the 6-1 at Old Trafford. The way we played that day, I was like, wow, that was the Tottenham team that we could all get behind. Obviously, the 2-0 against Arsenal, I think that probably is a highlight, but it should have been more, like the scoreline should have been more emphatic. That Arsenal team that day was probably the worst Arsenal team that I've ever seen. And there was a real opportunity there for us to make a statement. If we'd have beaten Arsenal, say 4-0 at home, as an example here, I think then we'd have probably kicked on a little bit more. But because it was like 2-0, right, that's it, job done, protect what we've got, that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the lows, I think I mentioned before, Chelsea at home, pathetic. Zagreb away, pathetic. West Ham, home and away, you could argue. Obviously blowing a 3-goal lead, inexcusable. But the defending in the game at the London Stadium recently was, if an under-8s team on a Saturday morning defended like that, you'd be asking questions, let alone professional sportsmen. So yeah, there's been a few lows. I even look back to last season, Bournemouth away, horrific. Didn't get a shot on target in 90 minutes, and Bournemouth are fighting relegation. What's all that about? Sheffield United away was alarming at the time. Very, very alarming. We got ripped apart that day by Sheffield United, who are now relegated from the Premier League. So there's been a few kind of moments where things haven't gone obviously to plan for Mourinho, but I think it's almost like, what are we judging Mourinho on here? Because he's not had a full season at all. So it's all like, well, what he took us from 14th to 6th last season, got us into Europe. So he did really, really well with that. But then coming into this season, it was like, right, can we kick on? Brought in 7 players. As I mentioned, beat United 6-1 at the start of the season at Old Trafford, beating Arsenal to go top of the league. And then it's just been the decline almost since then. Obviously getting out of the Europa League in horrific fashion and things like that. Got us to a cup final, domestic cup final for the first time in 6 years. But that's kind of it, really, with Mourinho and Tottenham. Like, that's it. Like, there's no, I guess the sacking's gone under the radar because of the Super League thing, but at the same time, it's like, well, was that it? It's almost like you're watching a program or you're watching a movie and it's just almost cut like really, really short, or it's you're watching something and you're expecting a big kind of anti-climax, and there was just like nothing. There was just nothing. So yeah, I guess those were the sort of moments during Jose's time at Tottenham.
Brilliant. Well, I do think in the near future, because I think I think for many who didn't see, Jose posted something on his Instagram, which is something that he's been using a lot more often To, like you said, Jose the person, I think, has been refreshing. Like you said, his press conferences. I think he's kind of found himself more. And I think, yeah, he posted something regarding, the paparazzi just following him everywhere. He had an interview with Sky as he was packing his car. Like, it was just, and I think he said that he was still remaining in football, which kind of gave a hint to him maybe having something in the works already, something that he had planned. But I do think Jose will probably come out later to discuss more regarding his sacking. So we'll have to wait and see about that. But you Tottenham have announced where's the Ryan Mason interim manager until the end of the season. Just to give you guys a bit of info, Ryan Mason is 29 years old. That's the same age as my boy Sonny Heung-min Son, 29 years old. Like, I think he is the youngest manager in the league right now. Yeah, and probably the youngest. I'm not sure if he's the youngest manager in Premier League history when he has his first match. But
we'll probably find out. We'll probably find out on Wednesday when we play Southampton. But yeah, obviously Ryan coming in, knows the club, inside out, and everything. Tottenham fan, and whatnot. Interesting as well that he's was chosen. I think a lot of people were asking why hasn't it been Ledley, but I think Mason has probably been coaching a bit longer. Obviously forced to retire at the age of 25 due to an unfortunate head injury. I mean, the announcement of Jose come out the blue, and then to hear that Ryan Mason was taking over was a bit like, okay, right, here we go. Got some good experience though, it seems, in and around him with Chris Powell and Nigel Gibbs as his two assistants. Obviously Chris Powell been a manager in, I know it's obviously a different level, but he's been a manager, so you would hope that Ryan would be able to lead on him a little bit, and just hopefully Chris will give him some good advice along the way in his next however many weeks. Nigel Gibbs, experienced coach as well, and Ledley King still remaining at the football club, and he's got Michel Vorm in, which was really, really surprising, by the way, that Michel Vorm's now back as a goalkeeping coach. He seems to be that guy that's just hanging around at the minute, Michel Vorm. Obviously, we let him go last season, and then brought him back when Hugo Lloris suffered an elbow injury, and then his contract was running till the end of last season, and now he's back again. It's like we just can't get rid of Michel Vorm, it seems. So yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see obviously how he gets on and whatnot. I think as a player, I wasn't necessarily Ryan Mason's biggest fan. The fact that him and Nabil Bentaleb kept Moussa Dembele out of the team at one point really, really grinded on me. Because I was like, how can you leave Moussa Dembele out of this team? But look, he understands I'm not saying that Mourinho didn't understand the club, because I think Jose is a person that looks to ingrain himself in any football club, and I think you could see that. But no, I think Mason, look, he might have, I wouldn't say the respect to the players, but I think all of a sudden now those that are on the fringes have got that second chance. Danny Rose might come back in from the cold. He knows the players as well. Like he's probably played alongside some of them, majority of them. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he gets on for the final six games of the season plus the cup final.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it just because, like you said, I think it's quite early we've never seen him manage a game before, so we wouldn't know what tactically how he would set up, man management. So it'll be interesting to see, especially with the cup final. Like, I personally wouldn't blame it. Obviously, I think you mentioned as a fan base, you kind of I wouldn't say admit defeat, but it's like, okay, we're playing City. Like, it's City who were just recently en route to try and get a quadruple. So, if you guys were to lose on the weekend, I wouldn't blame him. But obviously, if you guys were to win, then I think credit should go to him too. I think, depending on obviously how you set up for the game. So he has his last 6 games, and it's obviously likely that he's not going to remain, for long term. So Wes, you yourself as a coach, who would you like to see Tottenham bring in? Like, because I see the next manager coming in, they essentially get a fresh start. They got pre-season available to them. They've got the whole of pre-season to get the players that they would want. Who do you think, or if you had to create, a list of candidates, maybe a top three, who would you potentially like to see come in at Spurs?
This is really, really interesting because I think it's also, or one potential target for Tottenham, I think, also coincides with the timing of the sacking. And I'll go into a bit of detail on that now. Julian Nagelsmann, it appears, is the number one target.
Wow.
Now, I don't know if Levy's pressed the panic button because Hansi Flick announced that he's leaving Bayern Munich. Now, there's rumours that he's taking the Germany job after Joachim Löw. Now, if Levy's pressed the panic button to sack Mourinho to then get Nagelsmann in because he's afraid essentially that Nagelsmann will slip through his net and he will end up at Bayern, then Nagelsmann seems, and I don't mean this term disrespectfully because I think he's regarded as one of the most up and coming young coaches in the game, but he seems to be that flavour of the month kind of coach. Young, exciting, plays a decent brand of football. Seen it firsthand with his Leipzig teams last season. They were really, really well organised, well drilled, had a really good way of playing, and whatnot. So Nagelsmann seems to be the one that the club want. Me personally, I want Brendan Rodgers. Sorry, Leicester fans, but I just want Brendan. I think Brendan is so underrated as a coach and as a manager. I think he still gets a lot of bad publicity because of what happened at Liverpool, and all that commotion of the nearly man, the nearly team, that kind of thing. But look at where Liverpool were when he took over. Nowhere near, if you like. I think they had probably one season under Rafa where they came close to winning the league. And ultimately Liverpool were a slip, if you like, away from winning the Premier League. So I know maybe points difference will tell you otherwise, but I think that was obviously the key moment that swung the pendulum in City's favour that year. We all know sort of what happened there, but I just think Brendan is just so underrated. I look at the job the job he did at Liverpool, the job he then did at Celtic. Now everybody will say, "Oh yeah, Tin Pot League, only 2 teams in it." Yeah, but look at the difference now between Celtic and Rangers, for example. Now Brendan's not there. The difference is remarkable. And to go unbeaten in any league is a fantastic achievement. It's huge. To win, what was it, double treble or treble that he won there? That takes some doing to be that relentless constantly in the pursuit of winning, knowing that if a team beats you, it's like a team's going to raise their game because they're playing you, because it's essentially one of their cup finals. Again, is really, really, that's a difficult thing to manage, and manage for the group of players that he had at Celtic. But the way that they played was just so refreshing for that league as well. The style of football that they played, possession based, the way they attacked. They had obviously Paddy Roberts on one wing, Scott Sinclair on the other, and they were devastating. They had the other Moussa Dembele up top. They had Odsonne Edouards. I think his recruitment at Celtic as well was really, really good, and whatnot. So yeah, Brendan is my first choice. Obviously, the job he's done at Leicester since going there has been really good. Recruited superbly well, trusted in some younger players that Leicester have got at the club, and he's getting the rewards from it. So yeah, Brendan is the one for me, number one. Nagelsmann's probably in there as well, and then third choice for me is probably a massive wild card shout.
Okay.
But I'm going with Rafa.
Oh wow! Okay.
And people go, Rafa, like, really? Yeah, really, because again, he took over at Liverpool, where that particular team wasn't exactly the greatest one he inherited, and got them within a sniff of winning the league. He's won the Champions League. He won La Liga with Valencia, I believe, back in like early 2000s. The job he did at Chelsea, even to a certain degree, was really, really good. Just I think Rafa's like underrated as a manager as well. Like I think tactically so astute, gets any team organised, and I think he does that from the back as well. The job he did at Newcastle was ridiculous. Like how Mike Ashley didn't just give him a statue, rename the ground after him, and everything like that. If I was Mike Ashley, and I think Newcastle fans will probably agree with me on this, I'd have broken the bank to keep Rafael Benitez, because he took essentially a championship team and finished 10th in the Premier League. And there was, I spoke to a few Newcastle fans regarding Rafa, and it was like, okay, we're having to play this sort of almost that defensive kind of style because he hasn't got the players to do anything else. Like that's all we can do. Like if we opened up, we're just going to get torn apart because we haven't got the players. We're not, the squad isn't good enough. And I think as well, what Rafa did, he was really, really good at uniting the fans with the team. And I think that is something that Tottenham need. We need a manager to come back in and reunite the fans with the team, because it's been so disconnected over the last 17 months, I think, which was how long Jose lasted. It's been so disconnected, and we need somebody just to bring us all back and be on that same page again, like we did with Pochettino. It's quite funny because I think if we almost need a Pochettino that was at Southampton now, just to come in and again that uniting of the fan base for the team, and make us almost proud to be Tottenham fans again, because it's been a struggle the last 17 months or so. It's like, yes, we've got Mourinho and everything like that, or we had Mourinho, but it was like, okay, but Mourinho isn't Tottenham, if that makes sense. Like it was a strange appointment in the first place. Like I remember doing a podcast about it and said that, I didn't necessarily want Mourinho, but I gave him a chance because ultimately you want the person in charge of your football club to succeed. So, I think Rafa is definitely my third kind of shout. So probably Brendan, Nagelsmann, and Rafa for me in terms of who I would personally want, as opposed to who anybody else or the club would want.
No worries. I did think of other two names whilst you were going on regarding candidates. Allegri, would you think that's is maybe? I know there would be a language barrier with him coming in, but he is, like, you tactically astute, similar to Benitez. Would you think he could be, someone that could come in? I also had I really don't know how to pronounce his name, but you mentioned a Pochettino at Southampton, and I thought of the current Southampton manager.
Okay, Ralph Hasenhüttl.
Yeah.
So I think there's also been a few other names that have been bandied about, but I'll start with the two mentioned. Allegri, I don't think would want it personally. I think if he saw the state of the squad, he'd probably run a mile. But yeah, I don't think Allegri. I get this sense with Allegri that he doesn't want to work in England. I don't know why. I think like he would rather work somewhere else. Like some other team would just attract him a little bit more. The Bayern job might attract him a bit more than the Tottenham job, if as an example. So yeah, I mean, if Allegri turned up, I'm not gonna moan about it. That's for sure. Obviously, got fantastic pedigree, and things like that. So yeah, but I just don't see him. I don't see him. I think it'd be. I'm not saying that the other three that I've mentioned aren't going to cost Tottenham a lot of money, because they will do, because you've got, certainly if it's Brendan and Nagelsmann, you've got compensation to shell out as well. Obviously with Rafa, you don't have that, but Allegri strikes me as an expensive manager.
Cool.
We've just had our fingers burnt with an expensive manager, so I can't see Levy making that same mistake again, especially so soon. So I'm going to rule Allegri out of that one. Hasenhüttl is an interesting one. Had Jose gone a few months earlier, we might be talking about Ralph Hasenhüttl in this conversation a little bit more. I think the job he's done at Southampton, okay, you look at 2 9-0 defeats in a year, doesn't bode well for anybody. But I think given the circumstances that he's working under in terms of not having a massive budget at all, you know, and that's probably been cut massively this season because of COVID, and you know he's had a lot of injuries as well, which has gone unnoticed, and having to bring through academy graduates. So yeah, I mean, again, if Ralph Hasenhüttl was to turn up, I don't think it would be an appointment that would be, you know, it's not going to. You're not going to see Ralph Hasenhüttl turn up and go, "Cool, yeah, we've got Ralph Hasenhüttl." It might just be that, okay, we've got Ralph, done okay at Southampton. Let's see what he could do potentially with a better squad of players.
Yeah.
Similarly to Pochettino, because Pochettino's brand of football was quite similar in terms of energetic, pressing high up the pitch, and things like that. And obviously we got the rewards of it. Just unfortunately, it just wasn't that tangible success in terms of trophies. A few other names that have been mentioned is Maurizio Sarri.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, if we get Sarri, that we're in for a tough ride, because Sarri ball was tragic, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't really want Sarri. Eddie Howe has been mentioned as well. Now, I think Eddie Howe as a coach is brilliant. I think he would arguably be better suited to the 21s job. Has got a really good pedigree of working with younger players, developing players, and you know, sort of moving them on almost. But in his last season, I think his last season at Bournemouth has just dented his chances almost of getting that next job, that next level of job up a little bit. Which is why I think the 21s job, it's a nice environment for Eddie Howe to be in. You know, he's not going to have the pressure of demanding 3 points every week, but it'll be a different type of pressure in the sense of, right, okay, yeah, you're going to breeze qualifying because England are top seeds, but then it's about what you do in those tournaments. And you know, sort of 3 games in 6 days or however many. So that pressure's different and the environment's completely different, and I get that. But I think Eddie Howe, like I say, because of his last season at Bournemouth, falling out with senior pros, and things like that, I think that's just slightly dented his chances of getting that next level job. Quite interesting as well. Spoke with my mum on the situation. You know, as people know, mums are always right on things. Doesn't claim to be an expert on football, but in my household, she is the football expert. And I think she's after Don Carlo, to be fair.
Oh wow. Okay.
She wants Don Carlo. Said his dress sense has gone up a notch as well since being in Liverpool, City of Liverpool. But yeah, I think I mean, at the time of us pointing Mourinho, I think Don Carlo was just on the verge of leaving Napoli. So, but I mean, yeah, like Don Carlo would be a dream. Again, similar. I think the difference between Carlo Ancelotti and Mourinho, despite the fact they're both big personalities, is that Don Carlo is a bit more, I wouldn't say humble, but less likely to make everything. I'm not saying make everything about him, but Mourinho lets you know who he is, what he's won, and his CV. Ancelotti's like, okay, yeah, I've won this, but I'm here now. You know, he's gone in at Everton, and all of us, like, how he's managed to get in at Everton, by the way, is ridiculous, because he probably should have gone to, I think Arsenal should have probably got him. So credit to Everton, the board there, for getting somebody that has literally won everything in the game, to rock up at Everton Football Club, who haven't won anything really for 25 years, and is now, you know, getting them into, slowly but surely getting them sort of back to where they were, if you like, under Moyes, just in a different way. But I think, again, would be an expensive one, because he's probably on a fortune at Everton, to be honest. But yeah, Don Carlo again could be a wild card.
Okay.
So yeah, but I think, like I say, Eddie Howe and Sarri and Allegri are probably no goes. But I think as well at Tottenham now, we've got to be realistic. Like, do we go for someone who is such a big person, or do we go for somebody that, okay, still has a big enough personality, but actually wants to come in and just perhaps steady things. And I think as well, one thing that let Jose down was it almost felt like a lack of coaching sometimes.
Okay.
A lack of coaching, like the amount of mistakes we're making at the back. And it's like, you're not going to coach this back four. Is anybody not going to coach this back four and just work religiously on them, like, and just work on defending? Like, right, if this happens, you need to be here. You need to be here. You need to be, and just little bits like that. Like, I just think there was that sense of the responsibility almost at times was led too much on the players, and there was no consequence, if you like, for what they did for certain players.
Yeah.
Sanchez has been short of confidence all season. Is there not a way you can put your arm around him and tell him and make him feel like he's the best centre half in the world? Because then all of a sudden he's going to feel 10 foot tall, and he's probably not going to be making these mistakes. Like, Eric Dyer has been he's living up to his name. Again, you're not going to put his arm around him and say, look, I know you're having a bit of, you're struggling a little bit at the time. Just remember, how good you were when you came back into the team at centre half, and how solid you were, and and everything like that. All of a sudden, Dyer's been like, right, okay, yeah, I can remember that. I remember that. I need to get back to that. Okay, fine. Just little bits like that. So I think, as I mentioned earlier, Jose's sort of man management of the squads wasn't the greatest, and I think that's ultimately led to him sacking. But yeah, for me, like I say, probably Brendan, Nagelsmann, and Rafa, please, with maybe a sprinkling of Don Carlo if we can't get any of those.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Wes, for your insight. Thank you for your perspective. That is all for today's episode regarding Jose Mourinho's dismissal. Thank you very much for watching and listening at home. Thank you for bearing with us, obviously, with the international break, but me and Wes are so delighted to be back. So we hope you enjoyed this episode. Before we go, please make sure to watch us, subscribe to our YouTube account, and follow us on all social media platforms at WM32Football. You can also listen to this episode on Spotify as well. Catch us there at WM32Football. Do not forget as well, as you can see, me and my Wes are displaying our merch. You can go to the shop at www.wm32football.com/shop. I made sure to practice that because I saw Wes do it for a number of weeks. I was like, yeah, this is easy. But make sure you go to the shop to get your merchandise as well. Wes, I know there was something that you wanted to share with us as well before we go regarding the soccer scores. Would you like to quickly share with us regarding that as well before we finish this episode?
Yeah, so really delighted to announce that we have our very own holiday camp, football camp, which will be running in June. So from June the 1st to June the 4th. And that is in line with the Jack Collison soccer schools for the Milton Keynes area. So if there are any people watching from the Milton Keynes area and would like to book your son or daughter, boys and girls are welcome from the ages of 4 up until 13, then please, get yourself signed up. We are really looking forward to it. And we're going to have some really good fun, lots of prizes to be won, including signed shirts and things like that. So yeah, if you check it out on all the social media channels, all the information is on there, and also information is on our website as well, www.wm32football.com.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Wes. Thank you again, everyone, for listening and watching at home. We hope you stay safe, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
See ya.